Hi, this is David McCann for Elementor 360. Welcome to another 360 tutorial. In this video, I want to take a look at Elementor 3 and what you need to know. The first version of Elementor was released in 2016. Elementor 2 was released in 2018. And now in August of 2020, Elementor 3 just came out of beta. Most of the changes relate to three areas: code cleanup, global settings, and the theme builder. I'll take a look at each of these three areas, show what changed, how they work or what the changes mean, and discuss what you need to keep in mind when moving forward. One caveat: please keep in mind that Elementor themselves haven't documented all these changes, and they're still rolling out fixes. Before we go on, you may have seen that the update has caused problems for some people, and this is compounded by the fact that WordPress 5.5 was also released about the same time, and WordPress 5.5 has a jQuery update which has also caused trouble for some sites. So there are four things to do before updating. First, it's a good idea to check that your Elementor add-ons have been updated to support Elementor 3. 2. Take a good backup before you start. 3. If you can, test out the updates first on a local development site or an online staging site. And 4. When you do update, first update the free version of Elementor, now referred to as Elementor Core, before updating Elementor Pro. Okay, let's start looking at what's new with Elementor 3. Okay, the first big change is that Elementor did some code cleanup. Many page builders add extra HTML div tags to support their builder styles and animations. The Oxygen Builder and Beaver Builder are known for having cleaner output and fewer extra divs, but Brizy, Divi, and Elementor are known for adding extra output. Opinions are divided on how bad these extra divs are. They make the download size of the page bigger, which could slow down loading times. However, some say that that doesn't really matter because you can fix it with a good caching plugin. In any event, users begged the Elementor team to clean up the code, and with version 3, some div elements were removed. Elementor has an informational article about this change. They call it Optimized DOM, which is kind of a technical term for meaning that they remove some divs. DOM means Document Object Model. Document, that's the HTML web page. Object, those are the HTML elements on the web page. And model means how the web browser holds those in memory and renders them. So what they did is they removed 3 HTML wrappers or divs that have been standard in Elementor pages: Elementor Inner, Elementor Row, and Elementor Column Wrap. What's the big deal? Why do I care? Okay, those divs are used as anchors or points for styling and for animations. So in theory, Elementor has taken care of the transition when you move from Elementor 2 to Elementor 3. But third-party plugins may also have used those divs, or you may manually have added styling yourself, and those won't be picked up by the migration script that Elementor 3 runs. That's why you need to check that your third-party add-ons have been updated. Now, to minimize breaking sites, what the Elementor team did is that they only apply this optimized DOM by default to new Elementor sites. So that means for your existing sites, this shouldn't be an issue. To manage this, they've added a new setting into the Elementor settings area, and that's called Optimized DOM Output. And as I said, the default is that it will be on for new sites and off for old sites. But you can turn it on or disable it yourself as you need to. There's one other tool that the Elementor team added to help with this, and that is under Tools, Version Control, they have an option to rerun the update script. And this is the migration script to version 3. So if you've had to roll back or something wasn't quite right, this is something else you can try to update the document object model and hopefully fix anything that was broken by the upgrade to version 3. The second big area of change related to global settings and editor preferences. And to look at those, I have two test sites. This is a site that's still running Elementor 2 using the Page Builder framework. Let's go in and look at the plugins. You can see there are lots of updates pending because I didn't apply them so that we could see the differences between Elementor 2 and Elementor 3. See, it's got Elementor 2.914 and Elementor Pro 2.10.3. The other site has got Elementor 3, and I'm using a free version of the Cadence theme. If we go in and take a look at the plugins, you'll see it has Elementor 3.0.3 and Elementor Pro 3.0.1. So let's go take a look, a page. We'll call this one Elementor 2. And this is the interface that we've been familiar with, that we've seen for the last few years. And now I'll create one for Elementor 3. You notice the button looks slightly different. And they've changed the color and the font here. So it's not a big change, but it's noticeable enough that when you go into the editor, you can detect if you're using Elementor 2 or Elementor 3. When we click on the hamburger icon in Elementor, we open the settings panel. To make it clearer what has changed, I put a screenshot of 3 and 2 side by side. These items from Elementor 2, colors, fonts, theme style, and global settings have all moved under site settings. Dashboard settings and preferences have moved under user preferences. And then Elementor 3, there's a new item, theme builder, which is the third big change that we'll talk about in a few minutes. Let's go and take a look now at site settings. So default colors and default fonts have changed to global colors and global fonts. One thing I want to point out that I've noticed from my testing is that these global colors and global fonts have no relationship. Toggling this on or off isn't going to affect those at all. These are here for the editor, for you to set your preferences for the editor. Now, once you set your preferences here, you're going to use them in the theme style area. And these items here, the fact whether or not they're used in the Elementor editor, are affected by this disable default colors, disable default fonts. We're going to have to turn these on once we get here and start wanting to use these. Let's take a look at some of these items here. By default, you have these 4 colors, and you can rename them if you want. And these are your default Elementor theme colors. And I've added one, which is called accent number 2, you can see. And you can add a color here if you want. So we could call this button color. And we can choose a color for that. Then the global fonts is very similar. So when you go in and look at the global fonts, one thing you'll notice, it has a fallback. You might want to change that if you don't like sans serif. But again, just like with colors, you have primary, secondary, text, and accent. There are defaults set here, so by default it's Roboto. Has a weight, but doesn't have a font size. So I'm just going to give this, say, 34 pixels and use this for the H1. And then this one, 32 pixels. See, it's Roboto slab for the second heading. Text, I'll make 18 pixels. And for accent, I'll make that 18 pixels also. Okay, and the same thing, you can add your own now if you wanted. Like say you wanted to have something different for your hero image boxes, your call to action box. You could add that here. Let's take a quick look in Elementor 2. The default colors are the same, but you couldn't add more. The default fonts, very limited what you can choose. So the options for your global colors and global fonts have been extended. And there's something about these global colors and global fonts. They're not just global. Once you use them in your theme styles, they're also linked. Okay, now let's go into the theme styles and apply the global options that we set. So we go into typography, and the first thing you see in all these theme style panels is that it's telling us we have to disable the default colors and fonts on the settings page. So let's go do that first. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and disable default colors and fonts. And this is a little confusing because it says that when you disable them, Elementor is going to inherit the colors and fonts from your theme. But it's not inheriting them from my WordPress theme. It's going to inherit them from the theme styles that we create here. So that's something that could be confusing. It's good to keep in mind. Let's go in now and apply the globals. So for the body, we want the text and text. For the link, let's choose the accent and the accent, and notice how it had that nice preview there. And something to point out is that if you wanted to not use a global, you could come in here and choose one manually. Say you wanted your H1 headers to be red. If you wanted to add that to your globals, you could create a new global color there. And if you wanted to clear a setting, whether it was your global setting or one you manually created, then you click the clear icon there. But let's go ahead and use the primary style that we have. Okay, let's go and do the H2. I'm going to say secondary for that. And we'll say H3 is also secondary, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to update. Let's go and try to apply this. We're going to go out of the global area for the site kit, style kit, whatever they're calling it. And that's indicated by the blue bar at the top. And let's go now and add a heading. And my expectation is that that global style is going to get picked up and applied. And there it is. It's a H2. If we change it to an H1, you can see it picked up the H1 style. So that's pretty nice. And if you go look at the Style tab here, you can override the theme settings. Here you can choose a global or a manual for both of these. So one of the cool things about the new global design system and theme styles is that these aren't just global, they're also linked. So I can change this to another color. Let's say we want it to be orange. Okay, and everywhere, you see, I didn't change it. I didn't have to go into this element, this widget, to change that. It happened automatically. Now, the button options, the image defaults for your theme styling here. And you notice these are more quote-unquote theme styles than you usually have with a theme customizer. And then your form field options here. Those all work pretty much the same way the typography are. You're going to choose some from your global colors and fonts, and you can add more globals if you need them for these items. The other changes here in Elementor 3 related to site settings is this settings area. Site identity, background, layout, and custom CSS. Those four are pretty much universal options in the WordPress customizer. And Elementor has moved those into the Elementor editor. So, for example, you could upload your logo here, change the site name, site description, and the favicon. You can set your background. It can be a solid, a gradient, or an image. Okay, so these are standard WordPress things. These are some things that you would have in your theme by default, and some of these settings, like the widget space and the content width, those would come from the old settings page, Elementor settings page. They have the title for your page title selector and the HTML class for the body. And you can choose your layout for your default when you're opening the Elementor editor. This is another panel. These settings are also from the old Elementor settings panel. CSS is just where you enter custom CSS that applies site-wide, just like you would have done in the customizer. And then there's this lightbox option. In Elementor 2, there's just the option whether to use it and show it or not. Here we are in Elementor 2. You can see there's just this option to check for opening images in a pop-up lightbox. That's the only option you have there. Whereas in Elementor 3, you can see you have a number of settings to control how that works. So this is new. And then this takes you back out to the admin area. So I'm going to update that. And that's kind of our tour of the site settings. So the next thing we'll look at is the new theme builder interface. So if you remember Elementor version 2, this was the interface you had for the theme builder. You go to templates, theme builder, and here you could add a new theme template or import one. And it gave you tabs for header, footer, single, and archive. Let's go look at Elementor 3 and see what has changed there. So here is the same interface, templates, theme builder, and Elementor 3 in the admin. And you can see that they filled this out. So they showed search results, 404, single post, single page, in addition to just single. And I think they did this because people may not realize that they can or should create a template for these items. So they're making it more explicit and clear that that's what you should do. But the big change to the theme builder is from within the Elementor editor. You notice this opens a lot faster now. That's something I noticed that in the admin it feels snappier than it did before. But anyway, is they have this theme builder option. And this is a nice upgrade, okay, because instead of just those tabs, you can see visually it has kind of a placeholder here, and you can click to go in and add it right here from within the editor. These sections or links here are the same as these. So if you go here, you're just going to look at the header. But if you had several, like you might have for single post, you might have one for posts and for custom post types, whatnot, then that's convenient. And when you're on one of these pages, you can see here to get out of the theme builder, you click the X. There's this arrow here to import a template. Let's add one, and we go into the design library. These are some pre-designed ones. We could insert one. And one thing I noticed, which I think is good, is that in Elementor 2, when you imported a template, it would give you a site icon from the theme set. And now it just gives you the placeholder. And see, it says site logo. You can't even change it there to choose an image. You have to go back to the site settings in order to choose it. So that's kind of an interesting change that they've made. They're kind of linking these up more to the new theme settings and site settings. But let's publish this. When you do, you get your conditions. That's kind of the way it worked before. But if we go into the theme builder, we see that we've got the header added, and we see a screenshot of it. We can preview it here. If we click on that, there's the option to edit it, to go back into the editor, and there's the option to export it, delete it, or rename it. Here it tells you the rules that you've got set, so that's nice. It's not kind of a mystery what your rules are. It tells you here. And you can edit those, edit the conditions, or add new ones if you need to, right from within the theme builder there. So you don't have to open the template in the editor in order to find the place to change the conditions. So you do the same for each of these. You can import something from your design library, or you can create your own. So I'm going to go out of here, and just for grins, let's go to the front. And we see my header as unfinished as it is. We see the changes to the styling have been applied. So that is how this global stuff is working. And a couple more things to look at here. So here are the user preferences. This is just for the editor. We can go to light or dark theme. We can change the panel width. And when I saw that, I thought, ooh, cool. This is going to work like the plugin that makes this panel flexible. So if I make it, let's say, 400 and something, maybe I'm going to get more rows of widgets there. But that didn't work, unfortunately. So I'm not sure exactly what those are for. Maybe if you're editing on mobile or something, that would be useful. There's this option for showing edit handles and enabling Lightbox in the editor. Then the Finder and View page, that hasn't changed. That's the site settings and the new global theming, the theme builder, and the user preferences. Those are the main changes that we have with Elementor 3. In terms of summary and conclusions, the Elementor team had 3 large changes in Elementor 3. The first, the code cleanup, has the potential to be disruptive, to break some sites, and so you need to be careful when you update. The Elementor team was responding to user feedback for more optimized code output, so I think it's good that they did that, but be careful when you upgrade. The second area, the global colors and fonts and the theme styles, that is a pretty big deal. They introduced some of those things partially in the last few Elementor 2 versions, but it seems like they brought it all together with Elementor 3 and refined it and made it clear what they were trying to do. I like those changes. I like the global styles. I like the linked styles and colors. I think that's powerful. I've been thinking about it, and the ability to add your own colors and styles and name them and have them be global and linked is pretty powerful. It is something that a regular theme customizer you don't get. And if you have some complex styles where, say, you want to style your call to action differently, then that can be pretty powerful and groundbreaking because you can define your globals and use them in a way that you haven't been able really to do before. The theme builder changes are really nice. I don't see them as being a big change, but I do see that it will make it easier for users to understand what they need to do and make it clearer so that people don't forget things like a 404 page or search results, and so that it's easier to see, for example, the conditions and change those. So I think those are nice incremental changes. Things like the opening the image in a Lightbox, those types of settings are more extensive than we had before. So all in all, I think this is a really nice update to Elementor. It's a good jump forward. It's going to be interesting to see what comes next, because I do think that these changes are a start and that maybe they have a vision in place for where they want to take Elementor. For example, you know how they added those sections that are normally found in the customizer? You know, like these area for your site logo and site name and the background and the CSS for your site-wide CSS, those things that are normally found in the theme customizer. Perhaps they're planning in the future with Elementor you won't need a theme. They've got them now into the Elementor interface, and maybe you don't need to go to the theme anymore, and maybe they'll make it so you don't even need a theme in the future. Who knows? It's going to be interesting to see. So that's my walkthrough and look at Elementor 3 and the changes. There's a text version of the video available on the Elementor 360 website, along with other tutorials and walkthroughs and resources. I hope you found this video useful. Thank you for watching.